Customer service is everything this week on the Blue Collar Proud Show. Welcome back, Proud Nation, to another episode of the Blue Collar Proud Show, the show that's all about having and living the blue-collar business dream. If you're a business owner in the blue-collar industries, then you are in the right place to help you get the education, the encouragement, and the mentoring you need to grow your business into something that you love. A paradise, not a prison.
Not a prison. We don't want prisons.
My name's Carter Harkins, and with me right here, you heard his voice, Taylor Hill. Hey, man.
How are you today?
I'm good, doing well. We've got Mark Stoner on the show today, and I'm excited about that. That's going to be good because we're talking about a subject, customer service. You know, something we've written about, and it's
talk about a lot.
Yeah, it is everything. And Mark's got some great insights about that as well. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. So, you know, we actually covered this in our book. You want to talk a little bit about, what it was we actually covered in that book we wrote?
Yeah. So it's a whole chapter in our book, Blue Collar Proud, 10 Principles for Building a Kick-Ass Business You Love. And it's one of those principles. I think it's 6 or 7. I don't remember exactly. And we talk about customer service from two paradigms, the old paradigm and the new paradigm, the old way of doing it and the new model for customer service in a service business. And the old paradigm is transactional. And it's this idea that all a customer is money in the door. They need something, we provide a service, and they pay us, end of story. And emphasize on payment. Right. I mean, it's very much about the transaction rather than the relationship. So we're juxtaposing transaction and relationship. In the new model, it's much more about providing an experience that the customer feels is valuable in their life. Not just solving my problem, but bringing me value. And there's a big difference there. For example, if you have a plumbing issue, you may not know that it's what part it is or what the actual system is, because all that part is hidden from view. It's behind walls and under floorboards, and nobody knows what all that stuff is. And you can talk till you're blue in the face about your technical expertise and knowledge about how you solved their problem, and it's going to make zero impact on that customer. But that customer knows how you made them feel. That customer remembers that you talked to them with empathy and understanding about the problem, and that when you left, there were assurances that things were set right and that they could use the system with confidence. That's what they remember. So it's less about your expertise and more about meeting the customer where their expertise ends. In other words, coming toward them and saying, I want you to understand that we're going to take care of this problem, and when we leave, it's going to be good as new. That's what they want to hear. That's what they need to know. And so it's the relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not going to stand here and be all pompous and blowhard and tell you everything that I know. That's not important. What's important is you're going to be taken care of. I'm going to make sure that this is done right. That's what the customer needs. So the other paradigm is the idea that employees come first. Customer is always right. The customers come first. That no matter what, the customer is right. That sounds really good. It sounds almost like it's a maxim from years and years and years of customer service training, that the customer is always right. The fact is that the customer isn't always right. And oftentimes the customer thinks they need something that they don't really need. And it puts the employee in a position to where they're now compromising what they know they need to do in the best interest of their customer, because, well, if the customer's always right, then I've got to be the one to change. And, then we've got situations where the business owner goes, well, why didn't you do it this way? That's the way we always do it. Yeah, but the customer said they wanted this, and the customer's always right. And now a business owner has a choice. Do they throw that employee under the bus and blame the employee when things go wrong because they didn't do what the customer really needed done?
Right.
Well, if the customer's always right, then guess who's getting thrown under the bus? The employee.
Exactly.
How many people want to stick around working for a company like that? That the boss always throws you under the bus because the customer's always right. Well, in the new model, the new paradigm of customer service, the customer's not always right. So there are hard conversations that need to happen with customers. But the way that that's done is with respect and dignity and and empathy and a lot of communication through the hard stuff to make sure that we're all on the same page about what needs to be done. So there's a lot of differences there and ways of thinking about customer service that we talk about in the book, and we go into a lot more detail. But that kind of sums up at least some of the starting point for our philosophy of what customer service is.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to start. And I think what I want to do now is let's get Mark Stoner's take on this.
Absolutely. Probably doesn't need any introduction. He was the first guest on our show back years ago, 2 years ago, with our first episode of the Guys in Trucks show. And Mark Stoner is just a great guy, and he's been a great friend of the show and our friend personally. And so it was just great to get him in the studio and have this conversation about customer service. So let's roll that. We'll come back afterwards and talk a little bit about it.
Sounds good.
Hey, Mark, welcome back to the studio. Thanks for being here.
Always glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So we're talking today a little bit about service, customer service, making sure that that your company is doing everything that it can to deliver on the promise of good service. Let's talk a little bit about that. What are your take? You've built a really great service company. What is your take on what it takes to give good service?
You know, as you guys know, you have to care about people. And also, though, every day you don't feel good. You don't necessarily feel like, being the nicest guy sometimes, I mean, is that right? I mean, but you still got to be a pro, right? That I think that's the difference in some companies and some people is learning what being a real pro is. A pro, you don't show that. You're always on, the best actors, the best athletes, the best customer service people, they're pros. They know how to just do it whether they feel like it or not. And I think, it starts with a good heart. It starts with having your heart into it. And these are the protocol that I want to provide good service. But then it comes down to sometimes it's a daily grind. You're seeing 6 people a day. Some of my technicians are 6 people a day. And everybody's expecting them to be the special one that you showed up at the house, and you've got to show them the caring and do the protocol and make sure they feel good about the whole thing. And it's not, well, this is, it can kind of run into each other. Sometimes you guys do a lot of these podcasts. I'm sure some of these guys, people talking, all of a sudden you're like, I've heard this 1,000 times. So, you've got to be a pro. You got to be, one of the things like you guys, you're always inquisitive. And I think being a pro is always staying inquisitive, and I think that makes people feel special.
So I'm thinking that part of being a pro is having systems that help you know where the boundaries are, right? I mean, if showing up and giving good service depends on your mood that day, then you're not going to be very consistent as a business owner. But if you've got systems that show your employees and employees know, this is what good service looks like at our business, at our organization. This is how I give good service. Then regardless of how they feel, they know how to do it. And that's the being the pro part, right?
You're right. And part of it is just hiring people that are naturally that way. They naturally, and another big part of it is telling them what not to do, right? Because what not to do gets you in trouble, or, what they start to do and they shouldn't have. They start to say things they shouldn't have. They start to feel a certain way. And I think one thing that helps my guys always deliver a consistently good service is that they know I've got their back. They're not worried I'm going to come down onto them, so they can make good judgment calls without fear. They can tell people that we'll do stuff, and they know I'll back them. They don't always say, well, we'll have to get to corporate and figure that out. No, they can make a judgment call, and they know I'll back their play. And then if it's a bad call, we go over and go, why did you tell them that? Why did you say that? You don't want to do that. Well, we did it, and we got to back you up, and they know I'll do that. And I think that helps them be a pro. And we do have certain protocol. You don't say this, you don't do that. Like one of ours is helpers don't talk. Well, we call them apprentices. Yeah. So the guy who's number 2 in the truck, when a customer asks you things specific to the job, That's not your role to tell the customer, because you could be saying one thing, but the main technician is going to have to say something else.
Yeah.
So one of those is what not to do.
Yeah.
Don't talk too much at the wrong time.
Well, it's nurses and doctors, right? Nurses
Exactly.
know you never diagnose a
talk.
patient and tell them what's wrong with them.
Exactly.
You let the doctor do it.
And that is very, we have meetings every day. So we go over customer service things almost every day. What was good and what was bad about yesterday. Maybe I got a phone call and they're bragging, or I got a phone call and they're mad. And we go over that every day. So they have a good feeling about how to deliver really good service.
So don't you think that customer service, a lot of people think customer service is when you have a problem. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, everybody has good customer service when they're a problem. And, people don't understand. A good customer service is when your guy goes out and sees 6 people in a day and doesn't have a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really good customer service.
That's interesting.
So it's, sometimes we have this idea of what customer service should be and what it really is.
Yeah.
So the guy that goes out there and actually goes and sees those 6 people every day and does what he's supposed to do and is free to make the decisions and makes them and, and has that, really is the guy that you need to go, wow, he gives really good customer service because I don't have a lot of problems.
Yeah, I don't ever. We call it headlines. I have no headlines on that technician.
Yeah.
And he's flying under the radar. And for us as business owners, we tend to just watch whatever's whack-a-mole and whatever popped up as a problem, and we pay attention to that. And the guys who are good and the mole never pops up, and we don't have to whack him on the head. We just kind of forget about him. And that's a great point. We also kind of get into the firefighting mode.
Yeah.
If you do a really good job as a business owner, you don't have as many fires to fight. You know, and it's an exciting, much better business. You got to be careful because it can almost seem a little bit boring when you've really you've got good systems in place,
right?
And your people know what to do without you.
Yeah.
And sometimes the owner, that's where their whole identity is fixing these problems.
And I'll tell you, we've actually known some owners, and I won't say them here on the air, but we've known some owners and coaches and people and different people that literally, when they get too bored, they create stuff.
Yeah.
And so don't do that.
Yeah. So I got one more question for you, and this is around, you're in a business that's seasonal. So there are times when you're so slammed, you're just doing everything you can, treading water, just to keep your head up, above water. How do you, in an industry like you're in, safeguard customer service and protect that? Because good customer service takes time. And when you're running that fast, it's hard to really keep up and give good service. What is your strategy for doing that? How do you help your guys maintain that standard?
Well, one of it, I think, is positive reinforcement, positive feedback when it's right. They need to hear it. They get tired. They get bored. I think, the other thing for me is I always made it very personal. These are my customers. Yes. And even my office staff, I'm not in the field anymore, but my office staff, whenever you mention a customer that was mine, I know it. I know them inside and out because I did get to know them. I did care about them. That goes all the way back to hiring people that care, not people that just get it done. But I think, there's times we all get tired. I see some of my estimators come in and they've talked to, this is, their 50th person of the week, and it's, 50 different problems, and they get tired. I think, one, you got to be careful overworking, but we all know there's seasonality to almost everything, and there's times you just got to work through it. And again, you can't stay on my team if you're not a pro. If you let that side show and you become, hard to deal with, or you deliver bad customer service, maybe this just isn't for you. You need to learn, again, the best people, you never know when they're sick, when they're not feeling it, when they're tired of it. Pro speakers, the best speakers, they don't feel like delivering that same. They've delivered that keynote speech 100 times, and here they go. And sometimes you watch them, it's like the first day they delivered it. And it doesn't matter how they feel. You just deliver. You deliver it. That's what you're paid for. That's your job. And the good ones, Annie in my office, she's my main customer service person on the phone, and she can have such a bad day, but when you hear her on the phone, she is a joy, and she'll be laughing with them and talking with them and total pro, and hang up. And I know she's having a terrible day, and she goes, she puts her face right back on. And every time you call and you talk to Annie, you always want to talk to Annie. She's just that good. Yeah. She's amazing.
Yeah. I know Annie. I agree. Yeah, for sure. Hey, Mark, thanks for being on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Good stuff Mark brought. One of the things he said was, Because I think of customer service as being a heart thing, right? I mean, I'm kind of a heart guy, and so I tend to lead from the heart and tend to think about, helping other people from a heart place. But he brought up something really important. There's times where your heart's just not in it.
Yeah.
You're having a bad day, but you still have customers that need to be served, and you got to do the job.
Yeah.
I want you to talk for a minute, because I know you're a heart guy too. I want you to talk for a minute about that business owner who's just been absolutely worn down by customer issues and complaints, by employee issues, who's just feeling besieged by his own business, but still has a standard to maintain. Mm-hmm. And he's tempted to start dropping that customer service standard because of how waylaid he's been by all of these issues that he's facing in his business. Talk to that guy for a minute about what's going on in his world.
Well, there are times it's just tough. I mean, there's times being the owner of the business that it's almost like a season of disasters that can fall upon you. And I've been there. I mean, we've had times it's been really, really difficult. We've had some employee issues that I've just, really wanted to go home and just get in bed, put the covers over my head and go, all right, y'all take care of it because I'm done. I mean, I've been there. You've been there too.
Oh yeah.
And what I've learned is so much of that stems from me. And that was hard. It's a hard lesson to understand that if there's an attitude issue in your business, it's coming from somewhere. Mm. And, the first place you want to look is yourself. And it's also the hardest place to look. And sometimes you need somebody to stand in front of you and hold a mirror up. And I've had my wife challenge me. I've had you challenge me. I've had some of our employees challenge me at times. And in the beginning, when that would happen, I would push back. I would defend myself because I'm the owner of the company. And by golly, that kind of a stuff. It doesn't really do you much good. It really doesn't. The hardest work that any man has to do, or any woman, any person has to do, is the work on themselves, is to look inside and say, okay, I need to figure out first and foremost what's going on with me, because my employees and my customers are looking to me to see an example of what my company is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the first line.
They're taking their cues.
They're taking their cues from me. And if I don't like what they're doing, they're learning it somewhere, And when you figure out that it might be you, then you get to change it, and that's the good news. So the bad news is it probably is you. The good news is you have the ability to change.
That's right.
If you really want to, and which brings me to my next issue here. Customer service is a choice. Whatever standard you want to hold, it's a choice. You choose whatever that standard is. You choose what your customer service is for your business. It is your choice. And if you're failing, then you're making the wrong choices. Period. If you go online and there are tons of bad reviews, something's wrong. Something is wrong. Now, I'm not saying that every once in a while you're not going to get a bad review. You will. We don't all do things perfectly. That's what I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about systemic stuff. I'm talking about if you're on Yelp and every review on Yelp is a 1. If you're on Google and every review you've got on Google is a 1 or 2. If you go to Facebook and people are slamming you on Facebook, and then you come to me and say, man, I need help with my marketing, I'm going to look at that and say, no, sir, you don't. You need help with your business, which includes your customer service, because something's wrong here. Something's really wrong. So it's diagnosing those things. And it's hard because you're down. So you have a choice. You either stay down and wallow in it, or stand up and deal with it. And that's not easy. Mm-hmm. Okay? Wallowing is what I see most people do. They wallow and make excuses. They become victims of their own BS, and they believe that crap. And the ones that I see that win are the ones that look at themselves, look at their business, and are man enough and woman enough to say, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to do whatever it takes. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how bad it gets. I'm dedicated and committed to my business.
So one of the things that I love that you say frequently when it comes to dealing with challenging situations, right? Employee issues where they come to you, or something has come up. You'll just say oftentimes, well, it's just news.
Yeah.
It's just, customer complains. Well, that's just news. I just need to hear it and then deal with it. I don't need to allow the emotions to cloud, what's going on. And I certainly don't want to take that emotion from this thing that happened and carry that over into the next experience that I'm about to have with another customer who's in front of me.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. That's just mindset all over the place.
Yeah. There's this, and I'm going to bring politics into this just to explain this really well. So it doesn't matter what you believe or what your Democrat, Republican is, it doesn't matter. The issue is when you let whatever is happening control you emotionally, okay? It's just news. It's just something that's happened, okay? If every time you hear something, you react, then all you're doing all day is reacting.
Giving the control of your emotions to someone else.
Over to somebody else or something else. So if you can understand that all you need is the news, just tell me what the facts are. Tell me, I don't want the he said, she said. Just tell me the facts as you understand it. It's just news. We can deal with that. What I'm not going to deal with is the emotion behind it. Because whatever the emotion behind it is that energy that takes away from my ability to just sit and look at it objectively and make a decision of what we're going to do about it. So that's a huge thing for me, is I just want the news. It can be good news. It can be bad news. If we get a review and it's bad news, okay, it's bad news. What did we do? How do we fix it? What do we go from here? What was the problem? What caused it? Is there a break in our system? It is an opportunity to learn and create something that's better for the next customer.
Yeah.
Because I'm no longer worried about that customer. Mm-hmm. If I can go back and fix it, I will try. Okay? But if that customer it's unfixable for whatever reason, or they're crazy or whatever, and there are crazy people out there, I'm just saying, if that can't be helped, then let's move on, because let's fix it so it doesn't happen to the next guy.
But talk about the guy who just operates from that belief of everybody's crazy, or every customer is a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
That person is taking previous experiences. Obviously, he's come to that conclusion because of other experiences he's had with customers or employees. And he's carrying that into the next relationship and putting that on the new customer, even before he knows that customer and has a fair idea of whether or not they might be a pain in the butt or not. He's already decided for himself and for that customer that you're going to be a pain in the butt. That flavors and influences that interaction, doesn't
Absolutely. It? It's the old adage, don't bring your baggage with you.
Yeah.
Don't bring your baggage. So what is that? What does that mean? We all have bad experiences. We all have negative experiences. And guess what? We all have positive experiences too. But our culture, for whatever reason, tends to really stay on the negative. They want to feed off that negative energy. I just refuse. It's like there's no sense in that. Because if I take my negative energy from what just happened, if I take it home, it's not fair to my wife.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. If I take my negative energy dealing with one employee to the next employee, it's not fair to the next employee. It's a situation where you have to stop. And this is a really important thing. You have to stop sometimes and think this through and say, I am not going to take this moment forward. This moment stays with this moment. Here's where I learned this. A long time ago, well, not that long ago, but it's getting longer for every year, I got an anger issue. Had for years. And I had a guy tell me one time, said, you realize that you take that anger with you everywhere you go, because what you're really having a problem with is figuring out where that anger goes. Who are you really angry with? What are you really angry with? What is it that ticks you off like that? It's the same thing with frustration, disappointment, all that. If I take that around with me and I'm disappointed or angry or frustrated with every single person I meet because of one thing, number one, I haven't dealt with that thing, that if you just deal with whatever it is and get rid of it, now you don't have it anymore to take with you. It's not something you put in your backpack and carry it around. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, if you gather enough of those rocks and put them in your backpack, man, you can't get up. You cannot get up. You have to deal with every single issue with the person or the situation or the problem or whatever. You have to deal with it then and leave it there and move on.
So that was that, and this is this.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Don't mix the two up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I have an issue here with you at work, as an example, if I don't deal with you and I take it home and then I deal with my wife and, you know, and I'm mad at her for something, that's not her.
Yeah. Well, and I think about, you know, technicians in the field and employees that maybe have never thought about that,
Yeah.
that are driving from Mrs. Jones' house
Who
and going to
ticked them
Mrs.
off.
Smith's house.
Yeah.
And they're taking all of the negative energy and frustration and even conflict that may have happened in that experience, and they're carrying it right over into the next experience they're about to walk into.
Yeah.
So what's like just a practical way of like separating yourself emotionally from that thing that was that and this is this? How do you do that?
Well, the way that I did it is just by living in the moment. Being present is huge. Being present and understanding what each moment is, to say, you know what, this is this moment, this is where it is, and I'm fixing to go deal with this other person, and I'm not taking this with me. I'm dropping this. I'm not putting this rock in my backpack. I'm dropping it, and I'm moving on. Because I've dealt with it here, I don't need to carry it with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you do that enough, and you see how your load gets lightened over time, and pretty soon what you get to is you just want to deal in the present moment with everything that comes up. Because why in the world would you want to put rocks in your backpack?
Keep a short list.
Yeah.
So
just keep moving.
I can see where that would be valuable to sort of train with technicians and employees of any sort that interact with customer service and providing service in your business, to help them learn how to take that quick breath between phone calls or that quick breath between appointments and just go, okay, reset. That was that. This is this. This is a new experience. I have a chance to help a customer that doesn't know anything about the previous experience that we just had. And I can provide that for them. So I'm going to look into this. I'm going to lean into this new experience without bringing that old experience with me.
And don't take things personally.
Yeah.
Boy, huge. Because this is another really good thing here about providing good customer service. If you can understand that when you go into somebody's home, you have no idea what they're dealing with. So no matter what happens, don't take it personally.
Yeah, that's a great note to leave it on right there for sure. All right, well, let me just make a few announcements as well as tell you guys about some feedback that we've just recently gotten. Actually, I'll start with that. We just got a review back in toward the end of January, and I hadn't had a chance to read it yet. So this is from John MF003. I love how these usernames are just in Apple. They're just bogus anyway. But John, I'm not saying your name is bogus. I'm just saying I wish they told us real names instead of John MF003. You just had a very simple 5-star review. You just said, great show, very informative, and I learned a lot from them. So thank you for that, John MF003. Appreciate that. If I ever meet you, please introduce yourself that way so I know who you are. And let me just make a few announcements here real quick, too. We are speaking multiple times this April. In fact, so many, I'm not even going to list them, but you can find all the dates, times, and locations. If you get our app, free app, the BCP Show app, you can find it in the iOS App Store as well as Google Play for Android. And download it and then go to the events tab, and you'll see all the places that we're going to be around speaking, and excited about speaking to a lot of your groups coming up. And if you'd like for us to speak, you can just contact us over at the bcpshow.com website. Look for the contact form. We'd be happy to come talk to your group if we can make that happen. Speaking of the app, make sure that you check out the bonus content section. Lots of good things happening there. Good videos. We're producing more and more video and really ramping up and investing. Jonathan Sanders has been leading the effort there and just doing a great job bringing the video level up and upping our game there. So thanks to Jonathan for that. And check out some of that video that's showing up now in the bonus content section of the free app. We'll remind you, we've got a couple of books out. You can find those at Amazon.com. The first one is Blue Collar Proud, 10 Principles for Building a Kick-Ass Business You Love. And there's also the Blue Collar Marketing book that we did with our friend Jerry Eisenhower. Both available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com. Last reminder is just come on and hang out with us over in the Blue Collar Proud Nation Facebook group. It's a good place for blue-collar business owners to talk shop and hang out together, share frustrations and share wins. So go look in Facebook, do a search for Blue Collar Proud Nation, find the group, ask to join. We'll let you right in and hang out with us over there. And, of course, you can always find out about all the other places where you can connect with us by simply going to bcpshow.com/connect. That's going to do it for this episode of the Blue Collar Proud Show. As always, Taylor and I want to thank you for listening. Also want to thank the people that make this show happen every single week. Great people. Aaron Blaze, our technical director, Jessica Wynn, our show coordinator, and Jonathan Sanders, our social media manager. Until next time, remember, it takes the same energy to build a business you hate as it does to build one that you're proud of. It's your choice, prison or paradise. So why not build it the Blue Collar Proud way? We'll see you next time, right here on the Blue Collar Proud Show.
The Blue Collar Proud Show is a production of the Blue Collar Proud Network.